Hi everyone, this is Thibaut from PlayPlay, and this is a new episode of the 3 Learnings From, where leaders from communication and marketing share with us their key learnings from their careers. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Robin Daniels. Robin is currently CMO at Matterport. He previously worked as CMO at WeWork and has led leadership positions at LinkedIn, Salesforce, and Box. Hi, Robin.
Hey, Thibaut, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to be here.
Robin, that's really great to have you. And let's start with the first learning, which I think is about hiring.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things, as I've gotten a little bit further along in my career and I'm in a fortunate position to have to hire people, I always think to myself, I've gotten to where I am in my life because somebody at some point in time took a chance on me. Didn't have a great necessarily experience. I didn't have the best maybe educational background, but I showed energy and grit and passion. And so I always think to myself, when I'm hiring people, I want to hire for grit. I want to hire for energy. I want to hire for passion. I want to hire for whether or not they can show up every day and do the work, because something magical happens when you hire somebody who is so eager to prove themselves. They will go the extra mile to work their ass off, to show that they can deliver results, that they can belong, that they can be part of something, and that they ultimately can have a career that's worth investing in. And so I've started doing that much more, certainly, especially with more junior people, really taking a chance on them. I did that when I was at the CMO at a small company in Silicon Valley called Vera. And I was introduced to this young lady called Belize Perez, and she was an SDR, BDR for a small tech company. And she didn't really want to be an SDR or a BDR, and she really wanted to get into marketing. And so I was introduced to her. I did a little mentoring session with her, and it was obvious from that meeting that she had so much to offer. And I knew that she was going to go all the way one day. She's going to lead companies. She's going to be a CEO, maybe even president. She's so smart and thoughtful. But she didn't have the background. If I'd only gone based on her background, I would never hire her into a marketing position. But based on the story she was telling me about her life, I ended up hiring her as a product marketing manager. And she was a game changer for the company. The way she interacted with sales, the way she created content, the way she thought about storytelling was just awesome. And she's gone on since and worked at LinkedIn, and now she's working at Eventbrite, I think it is. And she's just had a great career. But so since then, and that's just one example. I've always believed in taking a chance on people who just need somebody to believe in them.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Robin. And do you think that works for any kind of junior position, or for some position you still need some hard skills?
It certainly depends. It's a great question. Depends on the position. If it's more mid-level, you want to see they have maybe a little bit of a track record so they can prove that they've done it, but still hire a lot for passion and grit and all those things and aptitude. And of course, if you're hiring a super senior person, you want to know that they have a track record of success and they've had leadership skills and so on. But especially in the mid-level and junior level, I would always hire for just the energy that they're showing, because so often if you take a chance on somebody who you can tell just needs somebody to believe in, they will go the extra mile. I mean, they will literally walk through walls for you because they want to really prove themselves. And it's so much joy. I'm sure you have seen that as a leader as well, when you have those people who are just going above and beyond, and they make the whole team better because of what they do.
I can't agree more, actually. Awesome. Thank you, Robin. Let's move to learning number 2. This one is around branding.
Yes. Yeah, so around branding, I think oftentimes marketing leaders, they have to explain the difference between revenue generating activities or brand generating activities. And the truth is that both revenue generating activities, demand gen, performance marketing, and brand activities are both related to revenue. One is just more short term and the other is long term. And if you want to create a brand that stands the test of time, that people fall in love with, you have to invest in it early, and you have to invest in it often. There are 3 key things that you have to do if you want to make a brand that really stands the test of time, a super brand, as I would say. Number 1, it requires focus. A brand does not happen automatically. You have to focus on creating this brand, and you have to do it with intention. We want to create a brand that stands for this. Number two, it requires consistency. The way you show up as a brand requires consistency. So often, like, let's change the brand values now, or let's change these colors, and let's change this and that. The best brands in the world, they have consistency. It doesn't mean you can't modify at the edges when you go into a new country or a new city. You want to have a local feel, of course, but consistency is important. So that's number two. And number three is time. It just takes time to build a strong brand. It does not happen in a day, in a week, in a month, or even a year. It takes a long time to build a strong brand, but the benefits you see from that are huge. So for example, when Airbnb was hit with the coronavirus crisis in March, the whole world was, of course, all travel stopped virtually instantly, and their whole business overnight just stopped. But then as the world started opening up again a little bit more in May, June, and so on, their business just took off, and they had spent $0 on marketing. And it's because they had earned the right by building the brand for the long term. People love the brand. So even if you're not spending on marketing, people will come back to you because they remember you, right? Because you're not buying a transaction. Short-term thinking is, let's buy a transaction in business. But if you build a brand that people fall in love with, they will come back to you because they'll remember the feeling that you gave them, and they want to be part of that. So that's an excellent thing. Myself, when I was at WeWork, for example, I came in there in 2019. And WeWork had a strong brand, but it was very, very disconnected. If you looked at the branding that was happening in Asia Pacific versus Europe versus America versus South America, it was completely different. You wouldn't see it because you only see in your region, but as it's coming in, I'm like, wow, this is really all over the place. And so we spent a lot of time trying to unify that brand to make sure that the way we come across everywhere is universally consistent. Doesn't mean that we, of course, you have a local feel and everything else, because you want to make sure that you're respectful of local norms and traditions and what's happening in the world locally, but you got to have a strong universal center of gravity of what your brand stands for. And so that was a key thing for me.
Awesome. It's very, very interesting, and it's true that in startup world we focus so much sometimes on short-term demand gen actions. So it's a very good reminder that investing in brand can actually be the much stronger over time. That's very great. And so let's move to the learning number 3, which is about a specific skill that you want to highlight.
Yeah, it's about really the art of communication. I think communication is what, when I look back on my 20-year career, is either what has made me successful in some careers, in some jobs, or not successful in other jobs. And it basically comes down to, if you're not communicating, then people are making up their own stories about what's happening. So as a marketing leader, you constantly have to communicate, even if things there's nothing new to communicate about. And the way you have to communicate to your team, you have to communicate to your cross-functional partners, you have to communicate to your CEO, you have to communicate to your board probably, right? Because you have those as your key stakeholders. Communication is really everything. And how you communicate, learning how to communicate in a way that makes sure that your message gets across in the right way is absolutely key. I've seen many careers fall down because people are not communicating in the right way, or in an aggressive or maybe combative way. I've seen it in my own career. Sometimes if I haven't communicated status updates around big projects, then sometimes people will go like, well, nothing is happening there. So learning to communicate and communicating often, I think is absolutely key. And so if I were to invest in one skill that I would say made a huge difference in my life, it was investing in communication. So I read a lot of books, I took courses on this. And I think it's so key as you think about, well, how do you tell the story of your life? How do you tell the story of what you want to become? How do you tell the story of what you can do for the company? If you can't communicate that, your success is instantly going to be limited. But it also means, communication is really everything. It's how you're perceived in the company. It's how you're perceived in the market. And over time, you got to find your voice, because I think the worst is when you try to communicate that's copying other people. You got to find a voice that's authentic to you. I'm a big believer in trying different things, learning and optimizing, finding your voice. Because if you have a voice that's authentic, that is, coming from a good place, then people tend to want to work with you and want to listen to you. And I think that's just so important if you want to grow your career. I know I write about this a lot on LinkedIn. You know, nobody likes working with jerks or people who are overly aggressive, and I've certainly experienced that in my life. And so, you know, that's oftentimes been told to me because it's sometimes like, hey, you need to be, you know, more forceful. And I just think that's not the world that I want to create. And if we're trying to create a more compassionate and equitable world for everybody, the way we communicate is super important.
Awesome. Yes, so interesting, Robin, and thank you. We're already done for 3 learnings. These ones were very insightful, so thanks a lot for your time. For our viewers and listeners, stay tuned for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.